Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Vet Talk with Hill. As you know, this is a show we created to sit down with military veterans to talk about their lives before the service, during the service, and after the service. I'm your host, Hill Pluvius, United States Marine Corps, and today I got with me one of my good friends, Kenny Joy, United States Marine Corps veteran. Kenny, my brother, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, man? How you feel?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man. You look good.
You too, man. I'm
Thanks,
proud of you, man. Everything you got going on.
Likewise, man. That's why I'm here, bro. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, man. As you know, like we sit down and we talk about, I know your story because obviously we've been friends for almost 20 years, but I want you to walk me or Marine Corps all the way up to when you got to boot camp, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so pretty much I'm from the Bronx, born and raised. I think we moved out of the Bronx in 1998. I come from a family that's half African American, half Caribbean American, so to speak. So we moved up to Rockland County in 1998, and I graduated from high school in 2002. And 2002, just laying around the house one day, the recruiter calls the house. I always say if I didn't answer the phone, I probably never would have even went. It was just like I picked up the phone, it was him, I heard him out, and I just went with it, you know? So right after high school, I think I graduated in June. September, I was in Paris Island.
And you say that you were laying around the house, like you didn't apply to college or anything?
No, I hadn't done any of those things up until that point, bro. It was just like, I was in high school, I was just kind of going with the flow, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't have a solid plan on what I was gonna do. Yeah. So like when I say lying around the house, it must have been like, it was January, so maybe it was like Martin Luther King Day or something. I was home and it was early in the day. And like I said, the phone rang, I picked it up, and it was Staff Sergeant Davalos. That was it.
And what is your family dynamic like? Like, were you in the house with your mother, father, and everybody else?
Yeah, so I was in the house with my mom, younger brother, younger sister, and my father, and it was getting tight. You know what I'm saying? Like my little brother, he was a baby. So if this was 2002, he may have been 3. Yeah. And at the time, I think he was in the room with my parents. Yeah. My sister had her own room, and you know, even though I was 17, I could kind of see the writings on the wall, like, there's not going to be space here for me soon. Yeah. So that's kind of why I knew that I had to do something. Mind you, I hadn't applied to college or anything like that, but it feels like this was what was meant to happen. You know what I'm saying? So when it presented itself, I took it.
Yeah. And what did your parents say? What were your parents thinking?
I don't know. I always try to think about how I would feel if I came home from work and my son signed up to leave. You know what I'm saying? My father said he always knew that I was kind of like strong-willed and I would just do things. Yeah. My mother, though, I was 17 at the time, so my mother, she would have had to sign me out or sign me in. Yeah. And I know she was very surprised. And to this day, she expresses to me how she felt when she first came home, and I told her about it. Kind of blindsided her with it, but she didn't for a second think anything was wrong with the decision. She went with it. She signed the papers, obviously, and I was gone.
And when you say you were gone, walk me through the process from the time that you picked up the phone, spoke with the Marines recruiter, and were you in the MEPS program? How long were you in there? What was that like?
Yes.
What did you experience that you thought, like, maybe this is not for me? Or, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted.
So I remember being in what they call the delayed entry program. It was in Nanuet, New York. They had like a small station off of the side of the road. And Saturdays, they would pick me up from my house, and I would go to the station, and they would make us run like around the neighborhood. We would do pull-ups inside of the station, and they would give us basic Marine Corps knowledge. It wasn't too hardcore. Like I said, I might have signed up in January. This went on through through that winter, spring, and into that summer where I graduated from high school. But it was just more of the same thing. Not every Saturday, but a few Saturdays we would meet up. We would go to a park, I think maybe Rockland Lake or something like that. We would run. They taught us how to drill. Yeah. And again, there was never a point where I felt like I wasn't gonna do it. Even though it was something completely foreign to me, I'm no ROTC, I never been that type of person, but for some reason it just all felt right. I was coming out of high school, so I must have weighed like 111 pounds. So I could do the pull-ups they needed. I could run my ass off, so nothing felt too difficult, It wasn't until, I guess, it wasn't until you reached the airport.
What was that like? What did you do the night before you left? Because you flew out of New York City.
Yes.
Because that's where we met. That
Yes.
very same day, same flight, same, all of us. Like,
I see, I think my memory is kind of blurry with that particular morning. I know when we left it was dark out, so it must have been very early. But my memory of that day doesn't really begin until we land. I think we land in South Carolina or something like that.
Yeah.
But I do remember the day before, or maybe 2 days before, my mom, she threw me a big party at the house. A lot of friends came by, some of my high school friends, a lot of family members came by, and I remember she worked for a printing company at the time, and she printed me a big banner that said farewell or something like that on it. But yeah, I remember that time, but that morning, it was dark, but that's really all I remember. It was kind of blurry,
Yeah. And did you leave from home or you stayed at a hotel?
If I'm not mistaken, I stayed at a hotel.
Yeah.
Or maybe that was when I went to MEPS. I think I left from home.
Yeah,
I left from home.
Left from home. And we flew out of LaGuardia because that's where we met. What was your experience like in Paris Island, getting off the plane on the island?
So yeah, I remember being very surprised that it started at the airport, because like while we were taking the flight, I thought I had another leg to relax. I thought that we would land and then go. I didn't know that when we landed, they were gonna be right there in the airport. And I just remember coming out and it was like, it's kind of like pandemonium, people running all different type of ways. There was some sort of drill instructor there, and he was the one that rounded us up off of the plane. And I just remember that day, I remember it being loud, but at the same time, real quiet. When we got to Paris Island, it was dark. I remember a long bus ride, like over like a swamp type thing. It was like,
that's probably the gate.
Yeah, I remember there being road, and I remember the sides being like swampy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember getting there, the bus like coming to a creaking halt, and then the drill instructor comes on the bus, and he starts to give that speech, the speech that the recruiters told us he would give.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was just, it was crazy, bro.
Do you remember the yellow footprints?
Of course,
Do you
of course.
remember which squad you were in?
I don't remember which squad I was in, but I do know people were to my right and left, so I guess that puts me in
second or third.
Second or third.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't remember any of that either.
Yeah.
You were shorter, so I assume you were more in like the middle to the back.
Probably in the back.
That's. I'm still trying to
think
of it.
I was definitely in the back of that, the back, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember exactly, like from the yellow footprints, what we did after? I don't remember.
From the yellow footprints, I think we went into a lobby type room, and we stood there. I think that's what it was. I don't know if we got our haircuts yet, and I don't think we made our phone calls yet. I think we stood in like a auditorium, I believe. It's kind of foggy for me too, bro.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. Well, I think we were probably in like an open squad bay, I want to say, where for the first 48 hours, where you had to do all your shots, your medical stuff, and so on. And then after that, we had to go do the check-in, and you get your laundry bag and all that crazy stuff. And then we had to go make the first PX call because you had to get the smart card and all of that in order to make the PX call and get the haircut.
Do you remember the moment when we made the phone call? Do you remember?
That was right off the plane. I don't even remember. I think that's where, you know, they had all the phones on the wall. You had to go call home collect, and you had to step on this thing that has like a mirror under it to see if you're flat-footed. I remember they told me I was flat-footed, so I was mad.
I remember that. I
You know what I'm
remember
saying?
that.
And that's that day I remember. And then we had to go into this classroom because we had to keep our heads down most of the time. So I couldn't, you know what I mean, look around to tell you any of that.
Right.
But I know, because we're missing something. Because by then they had to give us camis.
Yeah, I think we might be missing something in the sequence, but I do remember stepping up to the phone. I remember just being sad at this point because I'm reaching out to my mom, and my mom picked up the phone. I heard her voice, and instantly, you know, I missed being home.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, "Hi, Mom, I made it."
Yeah.
You know, like it was a real sad moment. It was the moment of like being cut off.
Yeah.
So
For me, I didn't get that because we didn't accept collect calls at the time. Yo, it is what it is, man.
Right.
And okay, so now we get assigned to our platoon. What was your platoon number?
I was 1098.
And I was 1097.
Yeah, you guys
So
were
you
right
were right
downstairs.
above me. We were in the same battalion,
Yeah.
same company, same battalion, and pretty much same building, same squad bay, facing like, you know, different floors and facing.
Right.
What is one thing that you say within like the first month, phase one, that you remember the most about boot camp?
I think boot camp quickly became something that I had never experienced before. And when I say that, I mean, we were waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We would like strictly going to bed 9 o'clock. That type of structure I hadn't had, you know. And they always, I guess, they made fun of me because of the way I walked in the beginning. They were trying to teach me how to march the right way. So I just remember it being just a different experience. I had never been outside of my house for that long with strangers. You know what I'm saying? It was an awakening for real because I wasn't prepared for it. Even though they tried to give us a heads up, like with our recruiters and stuff, there really isn't a way to prepare someone for that.
Yeah. And what was going through your head, like the first phase of boot camp? Was it something like you say, okay, I got to do 90 days of this? So I think it was 90 days, 3 months.
Right.
Whatever, you know, 92, 93 days for the, you know what I'm saying, for the time that we went. And first phase, you're like, okay, I got 2 more phases to go. What was going through your head? Was it like, yo, I'm going to stick through it? Or because I saw people drop out like, I can't do this. I'm out of here.
I never felt like I wasn't going to do it. You know, I always knew that I had to go through with it. I had to go back home a Marine, right? There was no quitting. And I never had a reason to quit because like I said, physically I was able to do whatever they demanded of us, you know? Like mentally, it got it became draining, but I remember quickly realizing that it wasn't real, like, so to speak, you know what I mean? Like they were just doing a job and we had a job to do. So I learned quickly that it wasn't personal. So anything they threw at us, I just took it.
Now, I remember you were a squad leader before we get to the other phases. You were a squad leader, second squad leader, I remember. Or whatever. First squad leader, right? And what do you think of, because you said you were 17 or 18 when you went, to have that kind of responsibility where you have to be one of the 4 people to worry, one of the 5, including the guy, to worry about a whole platoon now of young people. You're 17, and I assume others were older than you because I went in at 19. So what was that like? What was that experience like?
It was a different experience. It was different because they definitely put that on me, and I wasn't sure what I had done to deserve it, you know. But I believe that my training from home, just being the oldest kid, kind of a latchkey kid. My parents would be at work, and I would come home, and I have younger siblings to take care of. I think that kicked in. So it was pretty easy for me to lead, you know. I think just naturally, I just have that in me. And plus, I had the ability to do everything that I was asking of the people in my squad. So it wasn't hard at all. We have a natural reaction, like to resist leadership. You know what I mean? So we had a few people who just didn't want to go along with what we had to do as a team. But I don't think I ever felt like people personally didn't want to listen to me. And again, I think mainly because anything that I had asked of them, I was either doing it or I had already done it. You know what I mean? So I try my best to lead by example, pretty much what the drill instructors did. So I didn't have a hard time getting people to listen or follow my lead because I was walking the walk. You know what I mean?
When you say walking the walk, you mean your PFT was up to par?
I'm talking about my PFT, just being squared away, as they would call it. I always made sure to check on everything that we had going on, so nobody got left behind.
Yeah.
On Sundays when we had free time, making sure that people who weren't up to speed were able to catch up, just things like that.
Were you ever fired as a squad leader?
Honestly, I never lost it.
Yeah,
I never lost it.
That's dope. So now you're talking about phase 1, you're doing all of this. And I remember seeing you on the rifle range, because obviously because we were in the same company, we did everything together. Like my platoon, your platoon in 1096 did pretty much everything together. So we would go to PT together because we had the same company, Gunny.
Yeah.
We would go drill together. When you're drilling, I'm out there on the parade deck. We'll even go to lunch together and breakfast and did everything together, but we could never talk. The times that we talk, like if we in the bathroom or something, like, yo, what up? You from New York? Yeah, I remember seeing that kind of thing.
That was the first time I remember us talking was we were at church.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
It was like a Sunday. We were at church and we were in the bathroom.
Yeah,
washing my hands. Like, yo, where you from? From
yeah,
New York? All right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And then we go out to the rifle range, and you did your thing in the rifle range. Can you walk me through that? Did you ever shoot an M16 before? What?
Yeah, absolutely not. So, I guess my experience with a weapon would be zero coming into boot camp. Like I said, I come from a family that's real Caribbean, so we didn't get to play with toy guns, none of that.
Yeah.
There was none of that. So I didn't see it or really but really handle a weapon until we got to boot camp.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe because I was left-handed or something, bro. I just naturally did well the first time through the week and when we had to qualify. From the very beginning, I was just good at it.
That was my problem, because I was never like you. I came from a Caribbean home, so having playing with toy guns, especially and again, you're black in New York City,
Right.
Like you don't want your kids playing with that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Right.
So when I got to boot camp, I was really nervous just holding a weapon. Period. You know what I'm saying? And I never felt the need for me to, even though I was in the Marine Corps, this is what you have to learn to do, and they
Right.
tell you every day you
Right.
have to master this weapon, kind of thing. And I kind of because I was hoping to never have to use it.
Yeah.
I didn't really care so much about it, but when I got to the fleet, and that's how I get promoted, and then I had to learn to, really shoot, be an expert, to handle that weapon. So now you graduated, you went to boot camp, you're doing all of this. We're in boot camp together. Do you remember the day you graduated boot camp?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I remember vividly. My mother drove down. It was a bunch of them actually. My grandfather, rest in peace. My grandmother, my sister, my brother, cousin, aunt. I hope I got everybody. And my dad, yeah. Yeah, they all came down. I remember that day.
Same with me. I remember that too. And I remember my whole family came down too. And what was that day like for you? Did you... No, let's go back. We got to talk about the Crucible a little bit. So now, phase 1, 2, 3, the very end, we're going to the Crucible. The Crucible, for people who don't know, is when we go out in the jungle, in the wood, and it's cold. You're in Paris Island, where it's cold. Hot from September to October-ish, end of October-ish.
Yeah, our Crucible was in
October
November,
to
bro.
November, freezing, and you're in the middle of the jungle. And we march. How far would you say that was from the barracks, from the battalion to where we were?
Was that over 10 miles?
It felt like it.
I think it was.
So you were in full gear. You go out there to do that. Do you remember the trainings we did?
Do I remember the training? I remember there being obstacles that were very brain driven. They didn't require brute strength, or they didn't require physical strength. They required teamwork, and they required thinking outside the box. Yeah. Right. So I remember there being things where you had to simulate the ground was a minefield and you had to stay on top of a platform, things like that. Yeah. I remember those things. I remember at nighttime us also doing things. I remember, I think we had a nighttime shoot. We were shooting at night. I remember that.
In daytime, we had fire team drills where
Yes,
you
I
had to
remember
do
that.
the different commands like
You had to-
wedges and
yes,
so on and
yes,
kind of thing.
you're right.
And you had to do a little bit of comm training, medical training,
And-
med evac training with the helicopter.
Right, and it was the first time the drill instructors got personal.
A little bit.
Yeah, kind
They
of.
loosen up a little
I remember
bit.
one of them taking off his cap and like getting on a knee with us,
Yeah.
and we were having a conversation. I just remember we didn't. I remember I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I don't remember sleeping.
I don't remember sleeping either because it was cold and we were out in the
Right,
open. We must have had like a little hut with no windows, no nothing.
Yeah, it was
sleeping
wooden.
in a sleeping bag. And I'm saying all of this because so much happened within those 3 months. I completely missed swim corps. It's the Marine Corps. You got to learn how to swim.
Yeah,
we're coming from New York City, Caribbean background, but we're coming from New York City. What was that experience like for you?
Luckily for me, I knew how to swim coming in. I think it was an experience watching how many people couldn't swim, right? But for me, at the time, I didn't see it as all the black people couldn't get through it. I just saw it as some people just can't swim. You know what I mean? It wasn't until I progressed and I saw like, damn man, a lot of these people, a lot of my people can't swim. But I knew how to swim before, so it wasn't too challenging. The hardest thing I had was treading water for 2 minutes or a minute or whatever.
minutes, yeah.
That was probably the hardest part for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was I had to do it over and over, but I got through it. But
Right,
it was
right,
like
right.
Jesus Christ,
Right.
like I could swim like the regular strokes, but when she started doing that Marine Corps in full gear, and you gotta do that Dougie, what they call it?
What, the doggy paddle?
Yeah, like you got, but you can't like the water. People
Right,
can't hear
right,
it,
I
kind of thing. And I was like,
understand.
man, then you had to jump off that thing talking about hang 10. Nah, man, I'm not hanging 10, dog. And you had to go in there, and it's crazy to see like so many of us just couldn't swim. And our drill instructor told us he was a white dude. That says my black recruits.
My dark green Marines, y'all
Nah,
gonna
man,
make it.
you guys are gonna have to force me to come back down here because history, not me, according to our record,
Right,
you
right.
got, you know what I'm saying? But he was right. He was like right. A lot of us just couldn't get through it.
Right.
So we came back, knocked it out. Obviously now we fast forward to the rifle range, and you did your thing. We talk about the Crucible, graduation day.
Yeah. Graduation day, I went to Pizza Hut after.
Yeah,
That's really my greatest memory of it. I remember we after we were dismissed, I think by our senior.
yeah,
I remember our platoon like forming like a huddle, and we started like chanting like "Oorah, oorah!" And I remember the company gunny charging across the parade deck because I don't think we were supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And I remember him charging across the parade deck, breaking it up. I remember that specifically.
Who was the company gunny?
Mayo?
Gunny Mayo.
Mayo,
I was
right?
just about to tell you that.
He came across the parade deck. I remember his face, and he was doing that. But other
Big
than,
white dude with like
Yeah.
high and tight, like a little
Yeah.
bit of hair just right here.
yeah,
Just big
Gunny-
brawling dude.
Yeah, Gunny Mayo. And then after that, we were able to like show our family what the barracks looked like. Or was that Family Day?
Family Day.
maybe
But it
I'm
was
confusing.
all around the same time.
It's all around the same
It was
time,
around
but-
the same time.
Yeah, and went back to the barracks, got my sea bag, bro, and never looked back.
Yeah, and what was going through your mind during the day that we're graduating? Our families are out in the bleachers as we're marching down the parade deck, going from recruits to Marines. You get your EGA and your drill instructors are now talking to you like a regular Marine after just tearing you up for being a nasty civilian for 90 days. What was that? What was going through your head? What was that feeling?
So I remember like during the ceremony, I remember thinking in my head, I hope everybody in the crowd appreciates the drill section of the ceremony because that was my personal favorite part of boot camp was when we did drill. Excuse me. So I remember thinking, I hope everybody knows how long it took us to get this thing right. And I remember just marching like, I have a VHS in my house. I just don't know where it is, but I think I have the ceremony on tape. And I just remember being as tall as I could be at 5'5". You know what I'm saying? Like I remember marching, I remember stopping, snapping, turning, all that stuff because I was just happy to show everybody what we learned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That for me, that was the source of pride.
Were you emotional at all?
I don't think I cried. I was happy to see my family. I remember being very excited to see them. Mm-hmm. So there was emotion with that. Like I saw my little brother, he was a baby and stuff like that. So I was very happy to see them.
How about when you got your EGA? How was that?
That was different.
Yeah.
That ceremony was different because it was just us, and they had that song playing in the background.
I'm so proud.
Yeah,
to be in America.
like they knew.
That still gets me. It still gets me today.
Yeah. So I remember that song in the background. They put it in your hand, and my senior drill instructor was Melvin Williams. Gunny Melvin Williams, was how I remember him. And he was, all right, so the way it turned out, I think I was the only black kid in my platoon because we started with like 4 of us, and I don't think the other guys made it. So I don't know if there was a connection between me and Gunny, but I you know what I mean? Like I wanted that connection, and he kind of made me feel comfortable, you know what I mean? So I remember him placing it in my hand, and he was like, "Joy, you did a good job." And that was it.
Yo, you only had one black
I think it was
person
just me, bro.
I never noticed
I think it was just me.
I had...
You guys had a lot.
Yeah, my platoon was like mixed as hell. We had Hispanics, we had blacks, we had 2 or 3 Asians.
I think there were a few Hispanics in my platoon, but if I'm not mistaken, I think I graduated the only black person.
That's crazy. Yeah. And you had any black drill instructors?
Yeah, my senior was, we had a I think what they call it, a third hat,
a third hat, yeah.
That joined halfway. I can't remember his name, Constance, I think. Or
yeah, Station Constant.
Yeah, he left from you guys, right?
Nah, he was in 1090. He was in your platoon because I know him because I ran into him in Iraq or something.
Okay, I ran into him. He joined us like midway. Yeah.
And do you remember Gunny Leash? He was either 1096, and I ended up running into him and either Afghanistan or Iraq.
Okay.
Fallujah, that's where I ran into him. And there was another drill instructor down there that we saw. Big black light-skinned dude, like he looked like he was a Marine that you want to be. You know what I'm saying? I can't think of his name, but I'll definitely. And I saw Gunny Mayo as well. I think either in Okinawa or somewhere overseas. Right. Yeah. So damn, you were the only black dude. I wasn't. We had a bunch of guys that I flew down with from New York and other cats I was out there with. Right. And we did that, and then you graduate, you come back home. We graduated exactly the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And,
They drove down. It was a road trip. So I remember getting in a rented minivan, some kind of van. It was, and we drove back to New York. I remember falling asleep almost right as we hit the road, like right after we left the gates. I don't remember much else, but like, coming across the George Washington Bridge, I had the most disgusting haircut you would ever see in your life. Like, they had just ran me 0 up to 3. Like, it was gross. And then Thanksgiving was the next day. So my cousins and stuff were coming over. They let me have it. I remember that. I remember being real skinny.
Yeah.
Skin real like ashen from all the sun and sweating and stuff like that.
Black sun fleas tearing you up.
I had marks all over my arms. Thanksgiving went on as it usually would have. I remember just being happy to be home. And I think we were lucky. I don't know how we lucked out, but I was able to stay home from Thanksgiving until 2 days after Christmas.
Yeah, because it was around the holidays, then recruiters assistants.
Okay, yeah.
I remember because I did the same thing, and we ended up back in MOS school at the same time.
Right. So I remember, doing I didn't really have a lot of fun with that part, doing MOS assistants, but whatever. It was fun to be home.
Recruiters assistants,
sorry. But it was fun to be home.
But before we go into MOS school, I see you got a United States USMC tattoo.
Right.
Can you tell me about that? When you got it?
So-
What was?
I got this tattoo like way after I got out.
Yeah.
I had camped out for a union job to work for a local 46 iron workers, and in order to get the application, we had to sleep like outside of the union office. We slept outside from like Wednesday to Monday. They were giving out applications the following Monday, and I slept outside, and I just had that feeling again of like survival. I had made a good group of friends with the guys that were around me in line, and we kind of came together to get each other through that situation. So after that, I felt like I was back in it.
Yeah.
And then I went to Soho, and I was like, yo, put that on me. I just felt it, like from having that experience. We slept outside through the rain. It was like April. We slept outside through a lot of rain, but we made it. Like, I got the application. It was.
So you did.
I was in my feelings. I was in my
You did
feelings.
all of that just to get an application.
Just to get an application.
To apply for a job.
Just to get an application, bro.
And that's just a hustle. And
Yeah. I needed it at that time. My wife was pregnant at the time, so I needed it, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about all of that. So you did recruiter's assistant. You were MCT.
Yeah.
Marine Combat Training. You had to do that. We did that for what? Really quickly. What? 14 days?
I think it was like 15 days. Yeah.
15 days, and then you go to MOS school.
Yes.
It's like we did everything together.
Yeah,
We went to
yeah.
boot camp, MCT, MOS school together.
Yep.
And then MOS school was at Camp Johnson.
Yep.
Did you get to learn anything about Camp Johnson when you were out there?
Unfortunately, no. I didn't learn anything about Camp Johnson until afterwards.
It's crazy. When I got there, I went straight to the museum.
Yeah.
Because they got a little museum out there to learn about it.
Right.
And come to find out, Camp Johnson is the place where they used to train black recruits who couldn't train with the white recruits back in Paris Island.
I didn't learn that until after.
That's
after
crazy.
the fact, yeah.
That's crazy. I just fell in love with it. Like, just trying to, I think when I got there, somebody was talking about one of our trainers, a white dude, was talking about it, would say, hey, take advantage of this place here because of the history. And he told us, like, yo, you should go check out the museum. Whether, I think it was like a Saturday or a holiday or something that was going on around that time. And maybe it was around February or right before February. And then he was like, yo, it's Black History Month. You guys should take advantage. And, a lot of us went. Not only blacks, whites went as well. And then we learned that. So we went to school there. And then you go, where was your first duty station?
I think before I go there, I think it's important too to have those moments where people, as an elder, to tell the youngins to stop and enjoy what's going on, or kind of explore what they're dealing with now. Because for me as a youngin, I didn't do that, and I was just kind of living and doing what I wanted to do. But like you said, someone told you about it, and it was able to open your eyes to it right then and there. So I think that's important. That's one of the things I try to do now with people who are younger than me. Try to give them that kind of game, because that's important. I wish I would have known it while I was there. I wish I would have taken advantage of it while I was there. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But back to your question, straight from there, I don't know if you remember, there comes a time in MOS school when they sit you down and you fill out like a wish list about where you want to go.
3 places.
3 places, yeah. And I remember, I think the war in Afghanistan, I think it was like looming, right? It was like right around the corner. And I just remember thinking to myself, after I had heard.
Actually, not to cut you off, it was the war in Iraq. That's around the time where
it was Iraq?
Bush gave Saddam a certain amount of time to leave.
Okay.
That's what it was.
All right, so I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
But
they both were going on at the same time.
It was.
We had people going to Afghanistan,
right.
but that around that time when we were in school, it was around the time where Bush was communicating with Saddam and his people to tell them to leave power before we attacked.
Got you. So somebody has said it. I don't know who it was. I had heard it, that Marines that were going to Iraq and Afghanistan, they were leaving from California and Lejeune. So in my mind, I knew I didn't want to do that, right? So let me go to Japan. And that was like an easy decision to make, because I had no problem being away from home. I was already away from home. And I also knew that if I stayed in the States, there would be a lot of temptation to go home every chance I could. And I didn't want to do that. You know, I wanted to stay out and take advantage of being out. So I signed up to go to Okinawa, and I got it. And I was there in March. I think March 15th I might have got there.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you and I lost track after, I want to say after MCT. While I was in MCT, they pulled me out of MCT to send me to OIS or whatever grunt school was.
I was sad that day, bro.
It was crazy because it was all of us, me, you, Stoney, and a couple of other dudes we became cool with, and they pulled me and Stoney out.
Yeah.
They said, nah, you guys are grunts. And we're like, oh, all right, whatever. So we go out there, and then when we get back to the barracks to pick up with the next SOI, I think it was, the grunt school.
That sound right.
Yeah, and then they were like, nah, we messed up on your paperwork. You were on the right, know what I mean?
Right,
on the
right.
right thing. So we're like, all right, cool. So we ended up graduating, but you guys made it back before us and picked up with an MOS class.
Right.
So, and then I ended up breaking my arm while I was in training. So I had like that cast on my arm. So that's when I missed out on going out there with Chuck, with you guys.
Right.
But around the same time, I had signed up to go overseas too. Because I was like, I don't care where they send me, like just go overseas. And then I ended up in Okinawa with you. What was it like going to Okinawa out in New York City? You're 17 now, you're in Japan. What was it?
So at this point I had turned 18. I turned 18 in December of 02. So I turned 18 while I was in MCT, I believe. Yes, I was in MCT. So it was special, bro. It was special, man, because like I said, I had traveled a little bit as a kid, so it wasn't my first time leaving the country. But this was different. Like from the second we landed, once I got into the airport, I felt like, yo, I'm in a different country. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like if we go to Antigua, where my family's from, when I get there, it's family there, you know? But when we got to Japan, it was different, man. It was completely different. And I was instantly glad that I made that decision.
Yeah. And do you think, just get for me, I guess I'm asking you these questions because like the same for me, when I got to Japan, just looking at the cars, you see the difference in driving on the opposite side of the road, and you're like, damn, like it's a whole new world for me. Did you ever look back, like how many people who come from where you come from who don't get or will never get to experience that?
Yeah, so that's one of those moments that I think back on that I wish I took better advantage of it. As a kid, you know, that was like my college experience, and I treated it just like that. So I was partying, you know what I mean? Like just enjoying nightlife and stuff like that. But when I think back, I always say to myself that if I had a chance, I would go back and like actually explore a lot of it, because I don't know a lot of people who can say they've gone, you know what I mean? Like just for vacation. Like,
they've done that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It was an experience for sure.
I went back a couple years after for vacation. I just went
I remember
for
that.
2 weeks and ended up staying for a whole month.
I remember that.
Because I just loved Okinawa that much. And the good part of it, we ended up being roommates in Japan.
Yeah.
I remember I got to Japan, I was sleeping. Somebody came knocking on my door. It was you. How did you know I was in Japan that day?
So I think there was like, the way people were coming to Okinawa, it was kind of like on a schedule. So you knew like every weekend you're getting a new class. Every weekend you're getting a new load of Marines coming in. And for some reason, I believe there was a roster. There was a roster there, and I knew that you were coming, right? So I knew that I had to check that roster every week. And once I found out when you were coming, I got on the bus, the green line. I went from Camp Kinzer to Camp Forster. That's where they were doing receiving. And when I got to Forster, I think they told me, I asked around, they told me where you were. And I went upstairs and got your ass.
Yeah, it's crazy. I woke up, you was right there like, yo, what up, yo? I'm like, oh, yeah, we lit. And that was crazy. We ended up going from Camp Foster to being in the same camp.
Right.
From Foster, we went to Kinzer, to staying in the same barracks and working in the exact same place.
Yeah.
Like from the time that we left New York, we both left New York at the same time, same plane. went to boot camp, same place, same platoon, same company, but different platoons, MCT and MOI school and all of that. And then we ended up, and we had our own little apartment. What was it like just being, because I know we talked about this off camera, just being around like people from all over the States. And we coming from New York. What was that like for you?
It was cool, man. We had a very nice mix of people inside that barracks, and everybody was like a family.
Yeah.
And that was the good thing about it, and that was what I had missed so much. You know what I mean? We had people from Alabama, people from North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi,
Texas,
everything, and it was cool to have that mix. But still inside of our room, if you came in our room, you was in New York. Like, you knew that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew if you came in our room, that's the New York room. The hats on the wall, the jerseys on the wall.
Remember we got in trouble one time?
Yeah.
Because they had the barracks, and we put apartment. We wrote apartment on our door. Like, man, this is no damn New York City building. Take this thing down, man.
Yep. I remember
we had
that.
jerseys on the wall.
I remember that. Man. I remember that. I mean, I don't know how we could have been so lucky, bro.
Yo, everything just worked out perfectly.
It worked out great. And our room was kind of like the place to be. I remember music playing all the time.
Yeah.
And when I think back to Okinawa, because of those memories, I don't even have too much memories of work.
Yeah.
Like all of my memories of Oki was just like
doing fun
things and enjoying the people that we were there with.
Yeah.
You know?
That same thing with me. I liked Okinawa a lot. I enjoyed it. Like you said, like the work was literally across the street from where we lived. You go do the work, you wake up in the morning, you PT, do what you need to do, and then you go back to work. And some of the guys I still keep in touch with. I was just in Florida, ran into Gustin.
Okay.
And I FaceTime with Duck Taylor. Shout out to Duck. And Tank is still out there doing his thing. Some of the guys who used to cut our hair in the barbershop in the barracks are now barbers.
It was the
back
best
in the
place to
civilian
be,
world.
bro.
It was crazy. It's that I tell people all the time. This was my college experience.
Right. I say that all the time, bro. I say that all the time. We had a we had a good unit. Like, we would go out to party together. Guys were always making home. It was great, yo. It was great.
So, and then you do that whole year. We're there together, and then I decided to come back to the States, and you decided to stay.
Yes.
Because you enjoyed it that much.
I did.
Where did you go after Okinawa?
After I left Okinawa, I went to Quantico, Virginia.
What was that like?
That was cool. For me, it felt like a farewell tour, because I knew I was leaving. I knew I was getting out. So it was good that I was close to home, because I think after being in Japan for 2 years, I think being closer to home was a great move for me. Quantico was different. It didn't feel it didn't feel like a base. You know what I mean? It just felt like a place where people went to work, if that makes sense. My unit, I think I was in McCaff, Marine Corps Air Facility or something like that. It was a real small unit. And I worked inside of a warehouse that gave out supplies for that unit. I think the name of it is escaping me, but it was really just me and like a staff sergeant. It was a very small unit. It was a very different experience from what we had in Okinawa.
I hear a lot of officers there, man.
I don't remember seeing that. Maybe just my head's in the clouds, bro. But I know the training is there, but I don't remember crossing paths with a lot of officers.
And you only stayed there, and then that's where you closed out your 4 years.
Yes. After 2006, September, I got out. Yeah. The plan was, I mean, leading up to my EAS, they call it. I remember doing a job search in the area, because I initially did want to stay. I had made a lot of good friends in the area, and I had a few job interviews. I had one that went pretty well. It was a job working in the mailroom at the Pentagon, but it didn't come through for me. So I just, I went back home.
Leaving the Marine Corps from Quantico, the job in the Pentagon didn't work out. What was going through your head? Now I assume you're 21, 22.
22.
What are you thinking? Like going back home to live with your parents in New York, or did you want to get your own place and stay out?
So I knew that I had a place to go. Like I guess I found comfort in that, and I went back home with my mom. So the same house that I had felt I outgrew, I went back and I stayed there for like maybe a month. And then I went back to the Bronx to stay with my grandmother. My grandfather, rest in peace, he passed away that year. So now in my grandmother's house there was a vacancy. There was a spot there, and not physically a spot, but just like she was there alone. So now there's an emptiness inside the house. And I chose to go stay there to be, with her. And, it gave me a little more freedom, and it gave me a little more space, and it, again, allowed me to be there for her because she had just lost her husband. So I went there and I stayed there.
What were you doing for work?
So I was unemployed until, if I got out in September, I was unemployed until November. So like a month and a half. My first job out of the Marine Corps was working for a company that distributes cologne, like a third-party distributor. I was driving a forklift for that company, and I did that from 2006 until about 2011. I was driving a forklift, unloading trucks, the same thing I was doing in the Marine Corps at first in the warehouse.
And after that, what happens?
After that, September of 2011, I quit the warehouse, and then I went to college. I was going to TCI on like 33rd in Manhattan, right behind the garden, right behind the right next to the post office. And my initial plan was to do HVAC, and then like a lot of students, I changed like halfway, and I started doing coding. I was doing computer coding. So I think I had taken classes in like C++. I did I think it's Linux, a lot of that old stuff. I was a full-time student. I was using my post 911. One of the best things in the world. It kept me afloat at that time. I was using my post 911, and I was a student until 2014. I think at that point I had my associates. I took time off in between. My son was born in 2012, so I think by 14 I had stopped going to school altogether.
And what did you do for work then?
At that time I wasn't working. I was living off of the GI Bill. I was a full-time student, and I didn't start working until 2014.
What did you do in 2014?
So once I stopped going to school, I got a job working for a company. So pretty much, I think the way it works in New York City hospitals, public hospitals, is the environmental services are the people who clean, who maintain the building, right? The people who manage them is, at the time, I don't know how it is now, but it was a private company. And I got a job working for that private company, managing the housekeepers.
The people who clean it. Okay, and now what do you do for a living?
So I'll just give you the rundown. So I did that. Remember what I was telling you about when I camped out for the union job?
Yeah.
That was 2012, right? So when I got the environmental job in the hospital, I did that for like a half a year. And then now, 2015, the Iron Workers Union called me back after all those years. They called me, they asked me if I wanted to work, and I left the hospital. I went to work as an iron worker. So I was a part of Local 46 for about a year and a half. I worked on a high-rise on Leonard Street. I think it's like 56 Leonard, and I did 99 Church. That was a great job. That was probably the most fun I ever had working in my life. We worked with reinforcing steel.
Yeah.
We reinforced the concrete. And I left that job, and I got a job with New York State as a court officer. So that's what I do now.
Okay. What is a process of being a court officer?
So the process of becoming a court officer, it begins with a test, a written exam. I guess I can call it a civil service exam. It's similar to all the others. And once you pass that, then you have to go to a physical, you have to do a psych, and then there is an academy. For me, the academy was located on 123 William Street, and I think that was like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And after that, you graduate, you work in a court, and
Right.
what does a court officer do?
It's kind of like what you see the bailiff do on TV. You know what I mean? Like inside of the courtroom, you have duties. You have to pretty much prepare the courtroom for the day. You have to make sure the courtroom is safe. So pretty much you have to check it, make sure there aren't any dangerous weapons located inside of the courtroom. Your job is to keep order inside of the courtroom. And I guess outside, you are a presence to provide people with security and secure the people that are in the building to conduct business.
Deter crimes.
Pretty much.
And I thought of you on January 6th. What happened at the Capitol? Because I know you personally.
Right.
I mean, we have a relationship, a friendship. And I automatically thought of you when that happened at the Capitol. What do you make of this? I know I'm switching up really quickly. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to say this. What did you make of this to understand that people on both sides were veterans?
Right.
And the officer who lost his life was also a veteran. Because you're a veteran, and I know you, and I know the kind of work that you do, I automatically thought of you. Were you thinking of yourself when you saw that?
Of course, I put myself in the shoes of the officers that were working that day because that's their job, you know. And I really feel like it was kind of irresponsible, especially. I think there were a lot of. I know there were a lot of veterans in that crowd.
Yeah.
I know there were a lot of professionals in that crowd, and I think that as the professional, as the veteran, I think they should have known better than that. That I guess if you're passionate about something, there is a certain way you go about things. But I feel like if your side is the excuse me, I'm sorry.
You good.
I'm losing it. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're passionate about something, are you saying like if your side is you believe in what you believe in so deeply that you totally forget what it means to be a
that's exactly what I'm trying to say. So you claim that you're on the side with the police officers, right? Because Blue Lives Matter is something that side came up with, right? You would expect that something like that wouldn't happen. A police officer shouldn't lose his life doing his job. Like you wake up and you want to come home because that's what every officer wants to do. So watching what happened that day, it was real saddening. But again, it shouldn't be a thing that's about left side, right side. It's just there's a right thing to do, and that was not it.
Yeah, I mean, I was just devastated to see like a young officer, a young veteran, just like, you know, and come to find out other veterans were also, you know, a part of that group to treat them so badly.
Yeah, that's what feels so bad about it, because as a veteran, you know how well trained those people are. You know how well trained you are. So to have veterans on the side of the aggressors, you know what they're capable of, and that's the part that's upsetting.
And then going out and killing another veteran, killing a police officer, and doing it in that area, and automatically, bro, like I was just thinking of you and this and that. Are you watching the George Floyd trial at all?
Watching it, nah.
I try not to watch it either.
I can't do that.
And
that's just I can't. I don't think I have the energy. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? You don't have the energy in terms of like now you are working in law enforcement, or the energy as a black man?
Yeah. So I think emotional trauma is it runs deep with us, and I don't feel I have the energy to become invested in this thing, because I even with what we saw on video, I don't know if I'm positive that
Yeah, I don't think
You
I
know the
ever.
outcome.
I don't think
I
I
don't.
ever watched it. I didn't watch the full video. I can't bring
Yes.
myself to it.
So, right. So, there's a video of the crime, right? But inside of me, even with that video, I don't know what the outcome would be. Like you would say that in most cases, right? Like you see it and you call it like, yeah, that's a murder. He's going to jail. But in this case, I don't feel that type of security, and I don't think I can get invested in it.
Yeah, I feel the same way too. Because just somebody just asked me randomly, was I paying attention to the case? And I told them no. And they're like, you don't even know what's going to happen. What do you think is going to happen? I said, well, I think the officer is going to walk off.
Right.
Because, and you know, now they're saying like, oh, he had all types of drugs in him. And like that has nothing to do with how he was murdered. That, you know, doesn't take away from it. I hear you have a podcast with your guys from work.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that about?
So recently, when we at work, we have a good time, right? Like despite what our responsibilities are, we always find a way to have a good time, and we decided to turn it into something that people can join in on, because to us, it's hilarious. You know what I mean? So we decided to make a podcast. It's called the Lobby Podcast.
I gotta check that.
Yeah. It's on most platforms where you can listen to podcasts. I know it's on Apple. I know it's on Spotify. It's called the Lobby Podcast. It's to me it's funny, and I think we have horrible hip hop jokes, horrible takes on politics. Like it's funny, and if you listen, you'll have a great time.
And all of you guys are like in law enforcement?
Yeah, we're all
Yeah, I gotta
officers
check
together.
that.
Yeah,
I gotta check that.
It's dope.
Like we said before, it's a show where we sit down and talk with military veterans about their past, their time in the military, and now what they're up to. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions that you would like